I'm joined now by the coach, Jonathon Coachman. Welcome to WrestleMania weekend. How's it treating you?
It is a thrill to be here with you. The weekend's been great. And I got to tell you, this is my 15th WrestleMania that I've been to. It's my first WrestleCon convention, but this is the greatest weekend of the year. There's nothing like it. And when you come to New York City, it's the best. The energy here is fantastic. I'm having a ball.
So, 15th WrestleMania.
15, yeah. I came to 10 when I first started here back in my 20s, and then I left to go to ESPN. Yeah. And then, as people in the UK know, I left ESPN, and now I'm back with the WWE. But I do a lot of things, a lot of different projects here in a lot of different sports.
What is your favorite WrestleMania?
Gosh, I think WrestleMania 18 in Toronto, because for a lot of reasons. That was when Rock and Hulk Hogan finally got in the ring. And for those people who didn't have kind of the behind-the-scenes story, it was supposed to go one way, and it kind of changed into a different direction, right? They had to call it in the ring. And right before the match, me and The Rock got to do our little thing. And he's such a favorite of mine. He was so good to me. We had so many fun moments together. So that, to me, is my favorite WrestleMania moment for those two reasons.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've interviewed many people during your time in WWE. Yeah. But I was going to ask who your favorite person interview was. But judging by that answer and the fact that it's photos of the two of you together, it's a fairly obvious.
Well, he was my very first interview ever. And the thing I remember most about that night, we were in Chicago, and he came up to me and he said, listen, I got this great idea, because he was right in the middle of every interview he did. He'd be like, what color is your jacket? Well, it doesn't matter what you're right. He was doing that. And so he's like, I don't want people to think that you're an idiot. So let's do it this way. And he said, nobody knows who you are. So I started asking the question, and he said, who are you? And then I wouldn't answer because I was scared. And he goes, it's okay. Tell The Rock who you are. And I said, well, my name's Jonathon Coachman, but everybody calls me the coach. And he goes, the coach of what? The coach of a little girl softball team, the coach of this, the coach of that, right? So he said my name probably 8 or 10 times. And that's how brilliant he was, because he knew the fans in the arena, that's all they would remember. And then at the end of the interview, he said, oh, by the way, why do they call you the coach? And I go, well, it doesn't matter why they call you the coach, right? So we reversed it. I walked out of the arena that night, and all the fans in the back of the arena were yelling, coach, coach, coach. So it took one interview and the fact that he was so kind to get my nickname over, which I've been using my entire professional career.
It's a fascinating story, because you'd imagine first day, first interview in WWE, and they give you The Rock. It would be, such a huge pressure scenario, and yet it sounds like the pressure was almost taken off because you know what he can do.
Well, that was the thing, and I knew that if that night worked, he got to handpick who he worked with, right? Yeah. Whether it was wrestlers, whether it was announcers, whatever. So I knew if I got the timing down with him, because with him it's all about timing. Because even back in the day when SmackDown was taped, he would still do his interviews live because there was so much crowd interaction. Oh, and you couldn't tape his interviews and then hope that the crowd went with it. So he loved me from the start, and that's why we've had so many magical moments. Now, if you ask my mother, she didn't like the fact that he said I did things with farm animals. But, you just roll with the punches, I guess.
You take the rough with the smooth, indeed.
That's exactly right.
Doing my preparation for chatting to you, I was looking at all the different things you've done. Have you worked every single job there is to do in WWE?
I think I have. I came there as an announcer, and about 3 years in, Vince came up to me at the gym, and we were working out, and he was like, you're too big to be a backstage announcer, and would you be interested in being a character and getting in the ring and getting physical? And there's more to it than just saying, yeah, let's get in the ring and get bounced around. You have to learn how to do it. I had to learn how to work matches. That was the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. I would come in before shows 2 or 3 hours on the weekends, the non-televised shows, just to be trained in the ring so I could be a character when the time came. And then in 2003, at SummerSlam, it was like the greatest surprise in the history of the WWE, because nobody saw that coming. And I attacked Shane with a chair. And then after that, I became Vince's assistant, and I've done it all. And I'm proud of the work that I've done. And I'm excited to be back now in a more limited role. But it's just because of time and my schedule more than anything. But yeah, I'm very proud of all the jobs I've had.
One thing I've noticed with people, especially walking past you today, is they don't realize how big you are. You mentioned they're working out with Vince McMahon What is that like?
Well, they have a gym at the headquarters that very few people ever get to work out in. And I spend a lot of time in there. For me, recently, it's more of a lifestyle change and trying to be healthier, trying to be a good example for my kids. Back then, I just wanted to be in good enough shape to be able to take the beatings because I don't think people understand how hard it is to be in the ring, take the physical beatings that your body takes. And I have so much respect for the guys that do it full time because they're doing it 4 or 5 nights a week all over the world, and it's hard to do. It's very, very difficult, and to make it look good. And Vince would never ask any of us to do stuff that he's not able to do. But back to your original question, what is it like to work out with him? You make sure that there's no dirt on your feet because he will throw. I've seen him throw somebody out of his gym because they had dirt on their shoes. Everything's immaculate. And he works out extremely hard. He's probably the best in shape 74-year-old man you're ever going to find. You know,
I always hear the stories of him or people trying to keep up with him.
Well, his trainer back in the day was intense, and they really, really got after it. And I've always, people sometimes will make fun of me because I've been so loyal to him for so many years. And it's not out of blind loyalty. It's out of respect. I respect what he's done. I respect what he's built. I respect how he goes about his business. Is it always the right decisions? No. But when you're building a brand like this that is so subjective and objective, it's hard to make everybody happy. And you're not going to make everybody happy. But I know that he's been good to me for damn near 20 years. And hopefully it'll be 20 more.
You, as you mentioned there, you've been in the WWE for a long time. You went away, you came back. What do you think about how WWE and the industry has changed during your time in it?
It's changed a lot. With the advent of streaming networks, including the WWE network, it's become more of a global sport than it ever was before. And what I mean, we were always in 170 countries, but now, and I tell fans this all the time, that sometimes, the ratings are down in the United States. Guess what? We're not just playing to the United States anymore. We're playing to the UK. We're playing to Asia. We're playing to Australia. It's a global, publicly traded company. And so to do that, the business had to change to less risque outfits for the women, putting the women on the level that they belong on. And this weekend's a big example of that, having the 3 in the main event at WrestleMania, but also becoming more PG, playing to the kids, allowing kids to come to the shows, and knowing that when you bring them to the shows, there's not going to be anything that you see that is over their head or isn't something that they can see. So in that aspect, from when I started and the things that I did personally to the way it is now, I like the direction it's gone. Do I think it's gone too far? Sometimes, because it's an edgy business. Yeah. And whether it's Stone Cold with the beer truck, whether it's somebody pulling my pants down and spraying, spray painting, and that did happen. Those things I think are funny, and I still think there's a place for them. But it is what it is, and it's a bigger company now than it's ever been, so somebody's doing things the right way.
You mentioned all the variety of roles that you've had there. You're the pre-show panel host, of course, nowadays. You have to be relatively impartial with that, but are you allowed? Do you have any favorite wrestlers that you enjoy watching or enjoy working with or communicating with?
The one thing that I was able to achieve at ESPN was a level of self-confidence that I knew wherever I went after that not only could I deliver as a host, but also give my opinion while I'm doing it, which is kind of what I do with the pre-show. Is I'll ask the rest of the panel what they think, but also throw in what I think. There's a lot of guys that I love wrestling. Probably my favorite is Samoa Joe, because of how he goes about it. He's tough. He's intense. You talk about a guy that keeps it real or makes it look real. Samoa Joe is devastating, and I love how he carries himself. I'm a big Roman Reigns fan, and it sucks that it took leukemia coming back for the fans to finally realize what he's given to the business. And I think that's my biggest pet peeve when you ask about how the business has changed. With social media, fans are so close to the business now, and a lot of them think that they can do it just as well as we do it. And if that was the case, they all would do it, and so there's a lot of guys that I love watching them work. AJ Styles is amazing, but I also like the good human beings too, because I'm a father now. I try to be a good role model, and I like the guys and the women who are good role models as well.
There's a lot of talk about AEW at the moment. Do you think that's going to be beneficial to have more, have more competition for WWE?
The thing that Vince has always taught us is that competition is good. And when you only have one really big company, what are we talking about, 60 or 70 spots tops? You're talking about only 5 hours of TV a week. There's only so many people that can be on those shows. So anytime you've got healthy competition, it's good for the talent, more so than anything else. And so for that reason, more places for them to work and really earn a living doing it, I'm all for that.
And it's not just competition from outside companies, from independent companies, from Impact, from AEW, from whoever. It's also internal competition, because today is Friday here at WrestleCon. It's NXT TakeOver tonight, and the way that developmental system has changed, and the way that now, guys aren't being brought up and slowly introduced. They can come in and, we saw Finn Balor win titles almost immediately.
Well, when I started, OVW was like our farm system, right? And they had like a local TV deal. And now you've got NXT that is on the WWE Network every single week. There's no doubt, you're right, that internally there's competition and you want to drive yourself to be the absolute best. I don't like being complacent. And part of the reason I've made the moves that I've made for my own personal career is to push myself and to push my brand and to push my career. And I think that a lot of wrestlers, executives, whatever your job is, if you're at the WWE now, I think it's a good kind of shot in the butt to say, okay, there is somebody else out there that's going to put legitimate money behind a company, because we've seen so many of the names you've already said, they can only get so far. Right, because there's only so much money, there's only so many people watching, but you've got to have a big backer, and it seems like they have that. They've got some pretty big names that they've signed. They've got, JR is their voice now, so certainly they've got the names. We'll see if it's one thing to do a show twice a year. Yeah. It's another thing to tour and make the amount of money it's going to take to pay all of these wrestlers, and we'll see if they can pull it off. And more power to them if they can.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an exciting time to be a wrestling fan, and it's one of the most transitional periods in wrestling history. Would you think you'd say?
There's no doubt. It's as the business has changed from closed circuit TV to pay-per-view to streaming, and to have people think ahead. And people thought Vince was crazy when he introduced a network for $10 a month, yeah. And now you've got record revenue. But the in-ring product has to match the way the business is turning, and I think that takes almost a genius to look ahead to be ready for that.
It's interesting to see the amount that WWE changes, and we saw recently the John Oliver segment on WWE. Do you think that could be a catalyst for change in WWE, or as being part of that company, is it something they've already considered?
I mean, that's something that's been talked about since the 90s. In my career now, I'm an independent contractor. I work for 5 different companies, and I have to pay my own health insurance. Would the guys like it? Yeah. I would love for one of my companies to go, here's $1,000 extra a month to pay for your health insurance. Sometimes that's just the way it is. And this is not the first time. It's probably the most funny way that it's ever been presented, but this has been a subject matter for 25 years. So it's going to come, it goes. The news cycle is 24/7, so it will come and it will go.
Penultimate question. You mentioned working with Rock, you mentioned working with DX. If you could go in now and work with someone, whether it be a comedy or an angle with someone in that WWE locker room, who have you got your eye on?
Man, it would probably be somebody that has a really good personality, somebody that can match me on the microphone. Because that's when I was at my best, was when I got the crowd to hate me enough, and then whoever it was, whether it was The Rock, whether it was John Cena, whether it was Batista, I would get my ass kicked at the end of the day. And I'm proud of how tough I was. You don't know how tough you are until you literally get hit in the chin, which I did many, many times. But right now, I think I don't know if there's anybody specific that I can think of off the top of my head. I certainly wouldn't want to get in there with Brock Lesnar. There's no doubt about that. But anybody that can cut a promo, I think I would be a good manager type, or I'd be a good character, or maybe have a group of guys that I lead. I think that would be a good role for me if I ever decided, or if they ever decided, they wanted me to come back as a character. I think that'd be fun.
Final question for you today. We've been asking everyone this. The Hulk Hogan movie everyone is talking about at the moment, and when it comes out, it's been in process at the moment. If anyone was going to play you in a film about your life, who would it be?
Well, I mean, there's the obvious choices like Denzel or Wesley Snipes, but I think I'd probably go with Denzel simply because he's been able to change his body to accommodate the roles that he's been in. So, but I'm not on that level. So it's funny to think about. But I'd probably say probably Denzel. Yeah, sure.
You can put some hours in the gym. He'll be fine.
There you go. There you go.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Have a great WrestleMania week.
Yeah, you guys be good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.